I'm working on the building. It's a true foundation. I'm holding up the glass. I'm working on the building. It's a true foundation. I'm holding up the glass. I'm working on the building. It's a true foundation. I'm holding up the glass.
Welcome to the Under Construction Podcast. Join us as we discuss various topics meant to stimulate growth, challenge current ways of thinking, motivate change, and overall self-improvement. Today we have the crew. We have my cousin KJ, AJ, and I'm T-Dub. Today we have an interesting conversation with you guys about exercising patience. When I thought about this topic, it was challenging for me, right? I'm going through a lot of different things in my current life right now, and exercising patience isn't one of the things that I want to do currently in my life, right? And we're living in a society where we typically want instant gratification. But going along with my spiritual journey, I'm understanding that things don't always happen my way or in my time. Right. So beginning to exercise patience in my spiritual walk has been helping me in my day-to-day walk, right? Because I'm trying to blend those two spaces. So for me, it's given me time to reflect, not to make snap decisions so quickly, giving me an opportunity to take pause and not have the expectation of everything working my way instantaneously, right? A lot of times we get things in our head and we want to have our outcome come to revelation instantly. You know what I mean? And it does, like, that's not life. That's not realistic. So being able to be patient, being able to exercise skills and put systems into place that can help you to rationalize what life happens and how life looks when things don't exactly go your way is a big part about this practice. What have you guys thought about that? AJ?
I mean, exercising patience is hard, like, because to your point, I don't always want to do this. Like, it puts you in like uncomfortable spaces. It puts you in a different time frame that you've grown accustomed to. Like for me right now, I also have to exercise patience because like I was used to working 2 jobs and now I'm down to 1. So I'm like, I can't really finagle the stuff how I would finagle it or like spread my time out or like the things I want to get. Like I've grown accustomed to getting good gifts. I like giving good, thoughtful gifts, but they're typically expensive. Like I got my dad some Celtics tickets because I know he likes to watch the game. So I got him some Celtics tickets. I got my mom whatever she wants and stuff like that. I took my wife to a play, but now I've been working 1 job and I'm like, ooh, pockets is tight. Like all those things that I like doing when I had the money, I'm not able to do. So I'm like, all right, what I've been praying about is, all right, what do I do next? Do I get another job? Is that what your guy's trying to tell me? Is he trying to tell me to trust him? Like, I don't really know the direction, and I'm kind of just waiting for a sign, to your point. And it's an uncomfortable feeling because bills keep coming regardless.
I think that also gives you the opportunity to rely on the resources that are already
Absolutely.
there for you, right? Like God wants us to be good stewards of the things that we already have. So is it so important that you give right now in this season when he's asking you to steward and maybe save or do those sorts of things? Mm-hmm. So like the patience for me is offering me the time to look, like I said, at systems and how things are moving. Is this a time where I should be spending? Is this a time where I should be fasting? You know, even financially, should it be spiritually? Should it be, you know, even within my diet and all of those sorts of things, right? So it's giving me the opportunities to focus in on myself in other ways to steward the things that I have.
That's good.
Your thoughts, KJ?
I mean, I think patience is a general struggle, to your point about the instant gratification. But I think even the deeper part about patience is when you think about the type of people, I'll assume and say, like, when I know I try to keep myself around people that have a certain degree of ambition.
Yeah.
Okay.
Certain degree of being goal driven, a certain degree of having drive. Like I don't necessarily look around the circle of people that I put myself around and look at it and be like, that guy's lazy.
Right.
So when I say that, I think progress kind of is the enemy of patience.
I can see that.
Because it's like a snowball picks up speed while it's rolling downhill. So while you're developing this rhythm of like things going well for you and things going a certain way, God forbid you're told that you need to wait, even though you're already gaining momentum.
Right.
And I think that's like where I'm like, my struggle with patience is like, things are going good, and it's like, still not time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And that's a difficult component when your time frame and what you desire isn't manifesting itself the way you would like it to.
Yeah.
And life for me is about the people that I spend the time with too. So there's also a part of patience where you have to wait on other people, right?
Yeah.
Like we couldn't do this pod together if everybody wasn't present. So there's also the patience in being gracious and grateful for the people that you have around you. But you also have to be patient because not everybody is going to be at your speed or on your level at that same time. So giving patience individually to the people that you're surrounding, right? Or the people that you spend time with. How do you guys feel about when it comes to giving grace and giving patience to people that aren't moving, not necessarily on your level, but at your speed?
For me, I don't expect that from others. And I know we've had like, thankfully we've been potting together for a while.
Yeah.
So sometimes just like in the midst of one conversation, you'll get reminded of another. And I think that we've had conversations about people's capacity. And I think like I'm always like, I don't need you to do what I'm doing, but I do need you to give your version of dedication.
Agreed.
So I don't hold people to like what I can do or my capacity at the time, because when my capacity is lower and I'm on the opposite side and their capacity may be higher in another field, I wouldn't want them to hold it against me that I'm giving the best that I have in that specific realm.
Sure.
I think grace for me is, I think I'm a lot easier with giving grace and mercy kind of thing. I think for me, it comes from an internal battle, because I often look at myself. I often judge myself. I often critique myself and say, oh, I'm struggling in this area, or I have heard the discouragement from someone else about this area. So I kind of hyper-focus on that or hyper-fixate. So when it comes to other people, it's easier for me to give them grace. What I find difficult, and I think I've said this on another episode, but I find difficult managing whether I'm giving grace and being helpful or if I'm enabling.
Okay.
And there's I think there's a thin line between the two, and I don't like to enable. I have no problem helping people. I have no problem giving you grace, giving you mercy, seeing it from your point of view, trying to basically put myself in your shoes, right? But I don't want to feel like I'm doing it for you or you're taking advantage of me or whatever the case may be. So I try to give people patience, but I also try to give people a limit. Like, all right, cool. Like, you have this amount of patience allotted. And not to say that I'm going to be like rude to you after you've exceeded that amount, but I'm going to basically ask you to step up to the plate. Like, all right, cool. Like, you're failing right here, and I just want to know what's going on. Give me a health check real quick. Let me know what's going on.
For me, that kind of sounds like accountability.
Absolutely.
Right? So right now, currently in my life, I have a few accountability partners, right? People that will give me grace, but also keep me accountable to what I say I want, what I say I desire, and they're making sure that I'm staying on track with those things. And they're going to gently remind me of what my desires are, right? So that I don't get too far off track, right? Because sometimes if we go 2 degrees off course, if we're using aviation, right? If I'm going 2 degrees off course, I can end up in a completely different state. If I'm trying to get to Florida and I'm 2 degrees off course, I can end up in the Caribbean.
Right,
You know,
right.
you know what I'm saying? So sometimes you need those accountability partners to keep you on track. Now you can do it with kindness and generosity and all of those things. I'm not saying that you have to be self-centered in your approach, but I feel like at this stage in my life, I need people and I want people in my life that are going to help me to stay accountable to my own desires, right? But that takes a bit of vulnerability and it takes a bit of transparency, right? Because if I'm not being clear and transparent with my thoughts and desires about what I want, I can't have anyone keep me accountable to those things, right? So it's kind of like I was saying with those systems that you're putting in place, being accountable to myself to have the right people around me where I can have honest, open dialogue so I can say, hey, these are the things that I desire for myself. These are the things I'm working on for my life, so that these people that are on my squad can keep me accountable to those things, not in a disparaging way, in an encouraging way, but also in a stern enough way where I continue to grow.
Yeah, that's good.
I got a detour, so I'm gonna ask you, and not to get into your private business on mic, but
Sure.
I have to ask you, do you give yourself?
Good question.
Because you may be great at giving grace to others. Do you give yourself that grace?
Giving myself grace is something that I struggle with. Yeah, it's definitely something that I struggle with. I hold myself to a pretty high standard. When I fall short of that standard, it's very defeating. You know, things come, like life happens, right? And things happen that you don't see happening, right? It comes in and it kind of hits you, and you're like, "Wow, that's not how I had charted this plan," right? Do I give myself grace? I'm beginning to give myself grace. I had made a post earlier today about, multiplying the positive and dividing the negatives, or dividing the pain, right? Because right now I'm in the midst of dealing with something that's very painful, right? I had a goal set for myself. I wasn't able to attain that goal because of some physical things that were happening. Not necessarily a failure. It's just my body wasn't allowing me to do what my mind wanted it to do. But with that being said, if I internalized all of that upon myself, I would take myself to a dark place that I don't, one, deserve to be in.
Right.
Two, that I don't desire to be in.
Right.
But the difficult part of that is the vulnerability and the transparency, right? In my past, I would have kept my desires to myself so that if I did stumble or if I did fall, nobody knows, right? So on the surface, everything looks good, right? It would have been a social media win, right? Like nobody knows that I had this failure. So, and let me rephrase that. It's not a failure. It's just something that I didn't expect to happen, right? You know what I mean? So, trying to be intentional with how I use my language as well. I think language is important. So if I say it's a failure, I'm going to act and I'm going to feel like it's a failure. It's not a failure. It's just a part of life, and it's something that I'm currently going through. But being able to divide and conquer, to be able to share that with people the same way I would have shared the success and I would have been proud to share that. I feel like in this season of my life, God has surrounded me with people where I'm able to
be vulnerable,
share the fact that I wasn't successful. And the beautiful thing about it, nobody cared. Nobody said, "Oh man, I knew you weren't going to do that." I've had the most support I've ever had for something that I wasn't able to accomplish as a personal goal of mine. But I think that speaks to where God is leading me currently in my life, the people that he has around me and the people that he's also removed from my life.
Right.
There was a time where the people that are no longer in my life would have made me feel a certain way. And none of those people are in my life currently to do that. And I'm surrounded by a group of people that continually lift me up.
That's beautiful.
It is. I think that just speaks to like the grace, but like giving, I think that helps you to give yourself patience because they're encouraging you to kind of walk this thing out as opposed to running to the next thing or like trying to basically downplay your feelings. A lot of times what we do, like I also have a hard time giving myself grace because I know me. I know all the things that I do every day. I see them. I do them. I constantly make decisions. And what I do, if I mess up or if I don't accomplish what I had set out to do, is I start looking at all the things I did. What did I do? What could I have changed? What could I have done better? Oh, if I would have did this. And I think it's the if we're looking at a basketball term, it's the last shot, the game winner. Everybody does it. 5, 4, 3. You put the shot up, right? And then it's great if it goes in, but if it misses, it's like soul crushing. Because it's like, yo, what did I do wrong? I got the space. I got to my spot. This is where I always take my jump. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is my spot. This is where I always hit my shot, but then I miss.
Yeah.
And I think what you said speaks volumes to the people around you, because if you have that support system to say, yo, it's cool, it doesn't matter. Like, this is just something that we're going to build on top of, kind of thing. And they're going to help you to build something greater and something better. Like, you'll come out from that setback or from that detour feeling better than you did if you would have won.
And I mean, like, another thing, you know, we always talk about blessings, but we don't always talk about the blessing within God changing your plans.
That's good.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, and you know, that goes back to even what you were speaking about earlier, and just being not only intentional but obedient and consulting, and, you know, not to take your point, you know, you definitely could get into that.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Because I think that's an important thing, if you don't mind sharing that with the folks.
We'll get to it.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, but I think there's lessons in good and there's lessons in bad.
Absolutely.
And I don't necessarily take this as something that's bad.
Not at all.
But I'm also learning to take the blessings from it.
Yes.
My mindset 2 weeks ago isn't the mindset that I have today. So I'm grateful for that.
That's beautiful.
I was having a conversation with Amber on my way to church, and she was just asking me like how I felt. You know what I mean? Like, you know, and that's my person. You know what I mean? So we always share, you know, real conversations. And as I was speaking, she started to get a little teary-eyed. And I'm like, yo, I'm good. Like, why is that your reaction? She said, because I'm not there yet. You know? Because as much as I was praying for myself, she was praying for me just as hard, even if not harder. You know what I mean? So just to be in the space where I have come to an understanding and I'm secure with where I am and what God is doing in my life, it means everything to me. You know, and the fact that other people want it for me just as badly as I want it for myself, and they haven't come to the understanding of where I am, means that he's working in me in a way that I didn't know that he could before I started to walk this walk. That's right. You know, it's been amazing. You know what I mean? And there's no way that I would have this feeling or this knowledge about myself had I won.
Right.
If I had that hypothetical win, if I was still doing what I had desired myself to do or be in that place, I wouldn't know what I know about myself. I wouldn't know how God would have changed my heart or changed my thoughts about myself or the path that I'm walking through, not necessarily defeat, but the fact that I didn't accomplish the goal, but I was still able to process and learn something through it. So that's the importance of patience, right? Because if I just wanted the instant gratification of I desire this thing, I want to see it to its completion, one, it would have physically put me in a place that I couldn't come back from. So I thank God for putting the people around me who could see that I was struggling and to take me out of that situation, because I wouldn't have taken myself out of that situation. So, you know, that's one blessing there. But to work on me to say, even though I didn't get the desired result, I'm still okay. And to be okay with it moving forward is a blessing within itself. So it's like compounding
Your
interest.
Desired result,
Right.
not the desired result.
Well, yeah.
That's the hard
Because
part.
look at everything look at everything you getting from it.
Yeah.
Maybe that is the
result.
desired
Exactly.
result.
Yeah. Well, well,
I wanted to touch on
I'm still learning through this conversation.
Oh, nah, this is
you,
fine.
you're
No,
killing it. But I wanted to touch on something you said earlier, because I don't know if anybody caught it who's listening in, but like what you said was Amber started to get teary-eyed when you started talking about where you were and you were having the confidence of that God, basically God's going to make a way, like there's going to be some good that's going to come out of this.
Absolutely.
And she got to see you do that through that process, and she started getting teary-eyed saying she's not there yet. But by your faith, it encouraged her that she can get there. Because Amber was here before you were in this space. You said 2 weeks ago, like you wouldn't have been in the same space. So she got to see it.
Yeah.
And now she's encouraged because like, all right, cool. 2 weeks ago, he wasn't in that space. But that gives me the encouragement that, all right, maybe in some time I will also be there.
Sure.
Where I can take what I feel is a loss and then use this to catapult me into the next thing that God wants me to do.
For sure.
And like that's huge. Like
And there's a beauty and all that
real,
vulnerability.
for real.
Because, yo, bro, vulnerability with friends, with partners, with family. Like, these are the people that should be able to see those parts of you.
absolutely.
And to think of previous versions of ourselves where the place that you called home emotionally was still not as safe. Like, I mean, I'm talking about somebody that you would be like, yo, this is my day one. This is the person I'm always going to with everything.
Right.
And in your head, you're already hardwiring yourself to hide from them.
That's terrible.
Even though that's your go-to. And it's like, that's not even terrible. That's most people's regular expectation.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I don't cry in front of my boys. Oh, I don't tell them when I'm really going through something.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, you treating these people like the people you got on social media that only see your highlights, but don't see the whole game.
Right.
Like, it's beautiful that you can say that about your circle. I mean, like, I think you should never take any of this as anything less than a revelation of how great of a start your year is off to.
Yeah.
To just have that type of inventory check on everybody around you and everything that you're going through, that's beautiful, bro.
Yeah. No,
a blessing.
I appreciate it, man. Like 24 ended so well for me that I couldn't have imagined that 25 would be this good to me so far.
It's quick.
But that's just the power in what God can use, like in just changing our plan for His plan. Just showing like, all right, cool, like this would have had, and to your point, your desired outcome probably would have had a good result. But to your point of what you're saying right now, that this outcome that you didn't desire is is yielding a better result than you could have dreamed of it. Like, because you're getting to know who you are, you're getting to know who your circle is, that you can feel comfortable around your circle now. Like, because that's huge. Like, to your point, some people don't have that. They don't feel like they can just be transparent and not get the pushback or get the, oh yeah, well, you gotta, what are you gonna do now kind of thing. Because that's what a lot of people do. They try to kind of like rush over things. They try to kind of speed through, all right, this didn't happen. All right, what are we gonna do next? What's the next thing? And sometimes I think it's best for us to take inventory, to your point. Take inventory, where are we at? Look at it from the point of view, to your point, of your strength of, I'm glad that somebody was paying attention of what I was going through, because I wouldn't, like you said, you wouldn't have took yourself out. And
Bro,
sometimes
I was going to thug it out. For sure. For sure. I was anybody who knows me, I was definitely 100% going to thug it out.
Like most men do.
And you built yourself to be able to thug things out.
Yeah.
Right.
That's pretty much what we think of ourselves in life. You know what I mean?
For sure.
But then God just showing you, like, you don't have to. Like,
Yeah.
you don't have to be strong for me. Like, knowing that God is our strength is one thing. Like, hearing the words and stuff like that, but knowing, like, actually knowing, like, God is my strength to give you peace when, like, beyond understanding. Because, like, I can only imagine, like, it's not ideal, but for God to still give you that peace during your patient space, like, that's a blessing.
Another thing that I'll share with you guys, that I believe really helped me to get to this point, is being in the Word.
That's good.
You know, I've never been a Bible thumper. I can't quote Bible verse. That's not where I am in my spiritual or my walk currently. But my desire to have a real relationship with God has sent me into a place where I'm reading more. Right, I got the Bible and I'm reading chronologically. You know, the 1 year Bible. Right.
Okay.
And before this process, I started reading Job.
Oh,
Never read the book of Job before in my life,
tough book.
bro.
Yeah,
That,
he
it
goes
was-
through some
there was
stuff.
there was some things I was like, oh my God, Job.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But God works in such mysterious ways because growing up as a church kid, you hear all these stories about the Bible, and you may not know them all by heart, but
Right.
you hear certain things. I've heard more references to Job in general conversations with my pastor, with some of my ministers, with people that I just talked to, like, oh man, the faith of Job, the patience of Job. And I'm like, I wouldn't have known how to relate that, right? But because now I'm spending time with God in the Word, I know how it relates. And I believe that because I know how it relates, it leads me to believe that the feelings that I'm having and the revelations that I'm having is because of my connection to Him and the Word and knowing just how good it is and just how good He is. You know what I mean? So it's not just that I'm like, oh, I'm having these. It's the connection to my Maker. Right. You know what I'm saying? It's really what it is. It's a dope experience.
Yo, man, I'm so proud, just godly proud of you, bro. Like, you know what I mean? Like, just seeing everything, and like, you know what I mean? Like, just like, it's such a casual statement to hear God works in mysterious ways,
Right.
that you never really like you underestimate how much you have a plan. You have a certain desire for things to go a certain way. Right. And like, if it went that way, to your point, when you say it'd be good, not only would it be good, you would still give it up to God. You would say that's the blessing. But if it goes a different way than you plan,
Right.
and ends up better, then you're like, oh, okay, I really get it now. Right? Like I really like, you know what I mean? Like it's cool, don't get me wrong, I'm not lazy. Faith without works is dead.
Right,
I'm
right,
still
right.
doing my part. But I had no clue. I had no clue this is what you had in store for me.
Not at all.
Like-
Not at all.
Listen,
Not at all. You know, and it could have went south so many times. You know, the devil plays with your mind, right? Like that's how he infiltrates you, right? Because he really has no power over you, right?
Right.
And I know this because I've read it in the Word. Like he has no power over us, right?
go.
But the influence of the mind,
Right.
And I feel like that's where God has been working with me, right? Is how He's revealing things to me in my thoughts, how I'm processing my thinking, the conversations that I have, right? And I've been praying that God will speak to me, right? And I know it's not going to be like, oh my God, I hear God speaking to me, right? But it's through the conversations that I have with godly men when I'm around certain people and I have these thoughts that I know are the way He's working through me, right? Because I'm different than anyone else, right? I'm uniquely made. So the way he's gonna reveal Himself to me is gonna be different from everyone else, right?
Absolutely.
And comparison is the thief of joy.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So I have to get away from, you know, well, I don't worship in church on Sunday like Welch, or you know what I mean? I can't pray like Chris, you know what I mean? Or man, the way Elder Brantley, you know, does X, Y, and Z. All of these people are on a level that I haven't attained yet. Great mentors, people I look up to, people that I reach out to for mentorship. And when I have questions, I reach out to my spiritual mentors, right? And I look at all of these people as that. But to compare myself to people who are in a space that I'm not at yet, it's unfair to me.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? But I can see now through the conversations that I'm having, the way that my brain is working, the way that I'm processing my thoughts, that something's happening. Because last year,
That's not
I would have been in a dark space.
different vibes, right?
You know what I mean? But the fact that I can even be here and have this conversation, this is where I thought this conversation was going to go at all. You know, but
I love this
blessed to be able to
conversation,
converse about it, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, being able to share your testimony is probably one of the biggest things that you can do, right? We've talked about that, right? Like the Bible is basically written testimony, right? So we're getting to read other people's experiences. I think you shared that during some of the last pods. So, the fact that I'm able to use this platform to share, I mean, I'm not going to be a preacher.
I mean, you preaching right now.
Let's say that.
But it's just
you know what I'm saying?
Like what Webb said before we started, when he was talking about you go through something to be able to encourage others.
Yes.
With what you go through. He just talked about that.
Yeah. So, it is what it is.
I mean, I think it's really just the patience with yourself. And I am so elated right now.
Nah, for sure.
I can't stop smiling. But no, just like this is just a testimony of how much you've grown just in the past year.
Yeah.
For sure.
Like
For sure.
for all this to happen and for you to feel like, all right, God, you have blessed me so even through this. I times when I pray and when I preach, I always say, God, do stuff in spite of. In spite of what I'm going through, in spite of, like, give me the strength to do this in spite of it.
That's big.
Like, and it is, like, because some stuff, to your point, is going to be hard. Some stuff is not going to be easy to swallow. There's going to be things that we have a difficult time wrapping our heads around. But just being able to trust God, to your point, and just say, you know what? There's victory after this, or there's victory in this. Like, even though it appears to look like, the Bible says, matter of fact, in Job, though he slay me, yet will I trust him.
Yeah.
Because Job's going through a bunch of stuff. There's a bunch of things that are just not going the way that he anticipated.
That was a hard book to read.
It is.
There was a time I was like, man, that was a hard book to get through.
Man, when you guys said comparison is the thief of joy, one day, I think it was like a few weeks back, I was talking to brother Tony, and he was just talking we talked about patience, and I was trying to explain to him that, like, and I put it in the form of an analogy. I was like, sometimes you gotta be mindful of what you asked.
Yeah.
I was like, sometimes you might ask for something that takes a little longer. I was like, so, I was like, be very cognizant of what you ask. And I told him, I said, if we're sitting at the table, we're both hungry. And I'm like, yo, I'm hungry. I want to eat right now. Like, you know what? Let me get some chicken tenders.
Right.
And you said, I'm hungry, but I want a steak.
One thing's gonna be done.
Now, when my chicken tenders come out, because we're both hungry, you get angry and you're like, wait, I ordered first. Like, I ordered first. I want, like, I should get mine before him. But it's like, be mindful of what you asked.
Right.
What you asked for takes a little longer.
Right. Yeah.
A little more goes into it.
Right.
So just always be cognizant of, like, your end result. Yeah. And when you go through whatever changes it takes to get there, like, you have to be thankful that you for what you want in the end.
Yeah.
That's.
I mean, even going back to, I know we talked about it on our first episode, but talking about being under construction, like, depending on what you're trying to build, to your point, some things are going to take longer. Yeah. Like, if you're building a mansion, it's going to take longer than just a quick storefront or something like.
And that's exactly, that was the second part of the analogy, bro. Because I told him, I said, some people just want shelter.
Right.
I said, somebody wants a 1-bedroom. I was like, the building already exists. I was like, but if you want to get a brand new house built from scratch, and you're purchasing land, I was like, you can't be mad that all that man had to do was bust down some paperwork, get first class security, and move in.
Right.
I was like, y'all got different goals.
Right.
And that makes me think about something different when it comes to patience too. There's a space of, like, self-discipline that comes into it, right? Because when we're talking about, like, waiting in the patience game, like, sometimes you have to endure.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? It's like you're saying with the building. Like, if you're building a house through winter, you have to endure, maybe being homeless or being displaced in a difficult time, right? So the discipline that it takes to be consistent, right, and have those small wins every day, right? You got to continue to knock things off your list every day to make sure that house gets done. You know what I mean? You can't do the plumbing before you do the electrical. You can't do the electrical after you get the walls pitted. You know what I mean? Everything has a space and a time, and you have to knock out certain things. You have to be able to endure that process. So there's a bit of self-discipline that comes into patience as well. You have to build yourself for self-discipline.
Absolutely.
And, like, the more you ask for and the more blessings you want, the more you're going to have to endure, because it's going to take, as you said, it's going to take more time to get the desired result, whether it's on your time or it's on God's time. You have to be able to endure those things. And there's a certain level of self-discipline that goes into having the endurance and the fortitude to hold out for that. So like that's another thing that I'm trying to work on for myself as well, is to have the mental fortitude to endure the wait, right? And it makes me think of my buddy Eric at work. We had this thing where we used to say the wait isn't punishment. You know what I mean? Sometimes we're waiting for things and we want that instant gratification so fast that we think that we're being punished when we're just being asked to be obedient and to be patient. It's tough. But I think that's a good break point for this session. We'll come back with part 2 next week, and we'll get back after it.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate you guys. Stick with us.
Hey.
I'm working on the building. It's a